Hello, everyone who joined from the global majority to our webinar dedicated to a very interesting topic today is digital identity across the global majority regions, global majority countries. And we have a powerful bunch of speakers today who will guide you towards innovations and new technologies in this area. Uh, the topic of our webinar is Digital Identity Key to Inclusive Prosperity of the Global Majority. And I would like to start with the welcoming and opening remarks of the iDEA board member, Dr. Jochen Biedermann. Please, Dr. Jochen, tell us about how do you think digital identity can unlock financial systems, social inclusion, and what role it plays in financial systems of the global majority.
Thanks a lot, Alex, for the kind introduction. Maybe for those of you who watch our webinar for the first time, iDEA is a consortium of cross-border digital ecosystem builders, and we all share the aim of creating a movement and enhancing digital economies, in particular in the global majority. My name is Jochen Biedermann. I'm a board member of iDEA, as Alex has mentioned, and also one of its founding members. Furthermore, I'm also a managing partner of FinTech Consult and a managing director of the World Alliance of International Financial Centers. And as you can guess from these positions, my expertise is more in digital finance. And in digital finance, we have discussed digital identities for over a decade, maybe even longer. And I remember more than 10 years ago, we had all these ideas about self-sovereign, decentralized digital identities, which we all can maintain and then disclose as needed to business and other third parties. But the world has changed since, right? So, but it's fair to say efficient, safe, secure, and interoperable digital identities, they're essential for startups and for business in the digital space. Whoever is outside of brick and mortar needs digital identities, both in the West and in the global South, right? So what we have seen in the recent years is nationwide digital identities in several countries, which is quite promising and underscores that finally, eventually, the role of digital identities as critical enabler has been recognized also on a political level. So these are more centralized solutions, a little bit away from our original idea of having decentralized self-sovereign digital identities. But nevertheless, this is something which helps us a lot in the industry and beyond. What worries me personally is the security aspect of digital identities. New technologies, like currently we see artificial intelligence capable of producing high-quality deepfakes in a very cost-efficient way, or improving spear phishing dramatically because it understands, our needs and what we do, and it's much more likely we click that button we should not click. So new technologies will always be a challenge for our industries. Currently, it's an AI, without any doubt, but the next wave might be led by quantum computing, because quantum computing has a potential of attack popular encryption methods. And encryption is behind all of this, right? So what we call digital identities. So let's hear from our speakers. I don't want to waste too much time with my opening remarks about the future of digital identities, not only in finance, but also in healthcare, education, e-commerce, and beyond. And of course, about their transformational potential in the global South, because they support trust and they support inclusion. Thank you very much, and back to you, Alex.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jochen. Now, I'd like to give a floor to Secretary General of iDEA, Ms. Christina Moore-McClung, to tell a little bit about the role of digital ID in the global majority, and maybe explain the path towards today's webinar topic and partnership, what we would like to announce, special partnership we would like to announce today. Thank you, Amor.
Good evening. Australia. Super early good morning to Latin America, and good afternoon, Europe. I'm going to keep it very brief. It's always very difficult to follow an opening by my mentor, Dr. Johan Biederman. But what I'm going to say is, I think, going to be very personal. Um, a few things. I remember some 3 years ago, I met a young startup who was pitching in Finolab about the idea of digital verifiable credentials. Um, I remember just pestering him about the importance of having a wallet that carried digital credentials. And it's been 3 years since then. And after several countries, from Tokyo to Luxembourg, I'm extremely proud to welcome him as not just our chair for trust technologies, but more importantly, he's chairing a consortium related to the promotion of digital identities around the world. His startup now has 5 million wallets and I think more, but we'll leave it to him to talk about it. But he's stayed through the past 3 years as this really amiable, really inspiring digital economy leader. And we're very, very happy to welcome Mr. Jeff Hu into IDEA. I remember, Jeff, when we spoke before, we talked about the real root of poverty is not the lack of resources or money, but because it's hard for us to bestow an identity upon people and to verify who they are. And as my mentor, Dr. Biederman, said, this goes beyond economies and finance. We want to work on projects related to healthcare and education. However, while there are the enabling technologies that will make this happen, and I'm pleased to hear our brothers Davison, who will talk about the import, and Arturo, who's literally bookending the world right now, opening in the morning and closing the day, opening the day in Rio and closing the day in Australia. The importance of blockchain technologies in enabling this. Um, our dear friend and our incoming chair, Mark, am I allowed to share? For AI and data for the global majority, Mr. Mark Bernard will talk about some of the risks that come with the uptake of digital identity and digital credentials. Thank you to our sister Deepika, who is a leading digital literacy champion hailing from India, and she will tackle also the risks that come with this very important technology. So very happy to reconnect just a few weeks ago. A friend and a partner I met in London, Mr. Paul Sheedy, and we recently got married in Hong Kong. Paul, because this is a very interesting application of technologies for digital identity. There are many other technologies we hope to cover, like, for example, computer vision, among others. But for today, I think we're going to talk about the untapped opportunities. I thank Jeff for the partnership, not just with touring, but more importantly, with this consortium that you had put together. Takumi-san, thank you so much for joining us and for supporting Jeff. We believe that the way to really unlock digital prosperity in the global majority is to enable um, the uptake of digital identity, or in this case, digital verifiable credentials. I will leave it to Jeff to talk about the partnership that we're going to have for IDEA. Um, it's too exciting. It's too exciting, and I will leave it to my dear friend Jeff. Thank you, everyone. And in behalf of our chairman, Dr. Shegun Aina, who's currently in London right now, I was just on the phone with him just an hour ago, Mr. Paul Lee, Mr. Jatinder Handu, Mr. Hoklai Chia, Mr. Rodrigo de la Cruz, Um, and of course, Dr. Johan Biederman, not just our board of trustees, but all co-founders of IDEA. We would like to thank everyone. Thank you so much for your service to humanity. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Amor, for your inspirational note. And I think now we are moving forward with Jeff Hu, who is a founder of Turing Space and new chair of Trust Tech Committee in IDEA. So I'd like to welcome you, Jeff, and
Yeah.
yeah, tell us more
Oh,
about
sorry.
your.
Can I just so sorry. Can I just acknowledge very briefly Lowell, who is not only an IFC veteran, but more importantly, he has chosen to serve currently in Bangladesh. And he will talk about his experience from being a multilateral and the experience and the importance of digital identity. Lowell, thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Hi, everybody.
Yes, thank you. So, Jeff, we would really want to hear from you of your experience, how you build digital ID ecosystems in emerging markets, and what are the use cases and applications in different sectors as health, education, finance, so critical for development of the digital economy in emerging markets.
Sure. Hello, everyone, and I really appreciate Amor for the invitation and everything. And yeah, the first time we met in Tokyo, the second time in Luxembourg, and there will be more and more places that we can meet up soon. And honored to be I was chairing, kind of joining and helping with the Trust Tech Committee together as a one of the leaders, because I feel like everyone right here are all leaders and important players in the field of digital identity. And today I'm gonna talk about a few scenarios about using digital identity, because technology is one thing. Uh, every time when we overcome the difficulty of technology, it's more important to build a real scenarios that we can use it as a lifestyle technology. So I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, can you see it right now?
Yes, it's good.
Okay. All right. So I'm Jeff. I'm the CEO and founder of TuneSpace. We used to be just a tool technology who built for digital diploma. So since we founded in 2020, we didn't think that much, because I do computer science. So I feel like, oh, we are helping school do digital diploma so they can go low carbon. They can do cross country application for students. They can do everything during COVID without papers. So it start small, start simple. After 5 years till now, we quickly get a few important clients such as United Nations, UNESCO, UNHCR, and WHO to start using our certificate technology to certify and protect the truths of humanity. And as the Jochen mentioned about AI right now, even though it creates a lot of benefits, but all of us know it creates also a lot of troubles, right? So it becomes so easy to create scam. When we see something today, it can be fake. When we see something, an image, we feel like, is it actually generated from AI or is it taken by the camera? The border of distinguish between the fake and not fake being much more difficult in the future. So someday it will be harder for us to actually tell like what is real and what is not real. Right now, because all of us submit our video to the Instagram, to the Facebook every day. So Gen AI only take 3 seconds of your video and they can generate the similar voice of you and call your friends and parents. So right now, 77% of the victim who pick up the phone actually got tricked and lost money. So that's a real case. And throughout the 10 years of the past, the top 20 data breach till now actually create a trouble for human that each of us lose our data privacy for 2.8 times in average. So that's the situation for humanity right now. And our job, and also all the digital identity company job, we are trying to deliver trust, right? So when we see all the digital content, we don't know which one is real. We need a really fast, efficient, and safe way to verify the real of something. And this is our company. We are originally from Taiwan. So I'm coding from Taiwan today. Second year, we moved on to Japan, and that's where I met the Aoki-san and also DMP. We become a strong partner together to work on Japan and Taiwan collaboration. The third year, I moved the headquarters to US for fundraising. And then the number 4 year, we start setting up the Netherlands office. So the Dutch office will be ready in May. So I will be there next week, probably meet some of you in Berlin for events. For the past 5 years, we try to explore different kind of industry, and right now we have around like 500 certificate body issuing 6 million e-credentials. Out of them, government account for the large portion of the credentials. So the digital agency, educational ministry, the economy ministry, they are the major user of it, and also a few university, because that is where we begin. And those are the map of the digital credential we were trying to do. And to be honest, not every industry are the key industry. I mean, not every industry are easy to conquer. So we do face quite a bit of difficulties. For example, I think all of you also encounter a few challenges. For example, doing agriculture. Using certification on agriculture sounds like a good idea, right? Because we can do from farm to table, traceability, food safety, but actually putting all the data sensor in a farm, in the manufacturing process, in the cold chain, you're gonna take a lot of digital literacy and education for all the user in the pipeline, right? So it's not about technology, it's about the people who are gonna use it, the people who are gonna adopt the technology, are they ready? If they're not ready, if the end value of the chain doesn't increase huge amount of the economical value, then people will feel like, oh, technology is a burden instead of a solution. So that's a thing happening somewhere in agriculture. We try to use technology on certificate for arts, right? Arts sounds like a right industry, but actually arts have different form, right? It can be a sculpture, a physical sculpture. It can be a drawing. It can be digital art. So how can we actually attach a digital proof of certificate onto a sculpture? It's gonna take some physical feature on it, right? Do we actually like mark the proof of identity, proof of the certificate onto sculpture on the back, or do we insert a chip, a IC chip, RFID to make it scannable? So determine which technology to combine the software and hardware together as a software and a chip to apply on arts actually take a lot of difficulty on it. So that's the second challenge we came across. So for each industry, even though they need trust, they need a way to be verified, they need a long-standing storage for everything to be cross-country recognizable. But it's not every industry that is so easy and efficient to be enter. So after 5 years, we realized that for us, healthcare, banking, and also governments, these three are the much more easier one, and also education, because school, one of the purpose of school is for students to graduate, they get a certificate. So they are used to it, they just print it out on paper, right? Healthcare, they have so many documents on paper. You need a proof of diagnosis, the checkup report, you have the blood test, right? Everything is on paper. So the only thing we need to do is to make it paperless and secure. And that's when the digital certificate comes in. So after all the trial and error, a lot of difficulties, we finally signed up with the clients, who is the World Health Organization, the WHO. So WHO quickly issued the certificate, open up the usage of Turing certs to 160 countries, even though in quite a few countries, we only have like 5 users. So it doesn't mean like we have a lot of users. Like in some country, we got 1, 3, 5 users at a country, but I think it's a starting point. And these are the key clients who support us. So I just want to say thank you to Harvard, Berkeley for starting using us at the very beginning. So people can start joining us and trusting us. Because running a startup, I think all of you has a better experiences than us. It's hard to gain trust at the very beginning when you're small. And here are some more examples. So to break it down into 3 roles, right? To run a certificate technology, we have 3 roles. The technology that certify, issue certificates. The technology that receive and hold the certificate. And the technology that verify and check the certificates, right? So issuer, we call it Turing certs. Holder, we call it Turing identity. And verify, we call it Turing verify. It becomes a triangular of trust. So whenever someone wants to issue, hold, and verify, and there's a market, I'm going to use 2 examples. For example, in a school, a university, when a student graduates, the certifier is the school. The holder is a student who get a diploma. And the verifier could be the recruiter, right? If a student go to, for example, there's a company in Taiwan called TSMC. If students are applying for TSMC recruiter needs to verify and check in the background of students, which is checking the diploma validity of the school. So it's one of the examples. Second example is a hospital. Hospital is a certifier who issue the proof of diagnosis to the patients. And patients might use the proof to apply for insurance claim. So insurance company needs to check, are you actually sick? Are you actually injured? Or you are just faking the proof, right? So this kind of thing is happening within the triangle. Some data. So people might ask, then why using it? I'm okay by printing paper. I'm happy by spending time. I'm happy with so many employees working on the paper-based certificate. Why using it? So we need to do comparison about, okay, by using the digital one and the paper one, the time drop 700%, 700 times, which means in the past, you might need 4 full-time employee every year to deal with it. Right now, you only need 1 intern in the morning, 15 minutes, and you can get it finished. Second, hospital, school, government might ask, does it contribute to the environment? Is it a sustainable technology? So actually, we do the calculation, the paper-based and also the digital-based has a huge difference on carbon emission. So here's some data. And furthermore, when we are growing, we feel like government, they are also want to using it in quite a few different important area. So last year, we got 2 national projects from Taiwan. One is from the digital Ministry of the Economy in Taiwan, who certified 4.8 million renewable energy certificates. And the reason why they want to use it is they say, Jeff, right now, when a company bought a renewable energy certificate from us, they use it in 10 different places. So you buy one, use it 10 times, which is kind of like greenwashing. So they say we need a way to have a unique identifier to anti-greenwashing. So that's the way they need it. The second national project is 1.6 million of the small and medium enterprises identity in Taiwan are in our database. So we have their good history, we have their bad history. So when any company in Taiwan, especially a foreign investor who want to due diligence any company, they can have all the good and bad history all in one. So that's the thing we're doing right now for the governments. A few more slides. So this is the one we did for WHO. And luckily I was in Geneva for every quarter to share in United Nations and a few other places. This is our first certificates on the Berkeley Law School, was delivered ESG score, and also the healthcare checkup report. So this is one of the summary on there could be a lot of city services, right? Education, qualification, employer, healthcare, banks, and a lot of usage. The data supplier, data demander will be the merchants these scenarios. So as I mentioned at the very beginning, is technology is one thing, but more importantly, to build a lifestyle, to build a behavior of the users and the citizen to make them smart citizen will be the important and foundation of it being a smart city. So the final quote will be later on, Aoki-san will mention the association that we are building is called APDI, Asia Pacific Digital Identity. And from the support of iDEA, we're actually recruiting more members who are the identity company in the Asia Pacific. So in summary is we believe that to achieve a huge vision, it's not only one company can do it. 5 company is still hard. So we need every company who are in a space, who are doing well, who are struggling, okay, but we join forces to build a cross-country scenario all together, and that's a mean for APDI and also the mean for IDEA. So that's it, and thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the sharing today. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. I think we really enjoyed that. So a lot of insights and opening. At least myself, I found it's very, very interesting. And I think together with IDEA, we'll be able to deliver more actual use cases as we see the potential of this industry is very huge, but it's really the beginning of the rise of digital ID right now. Now I'd like to give a floor to another founder, Paul Sheedy. He's from a company called Unify ID. Paul, we know that you have a lot of cross-cultural experience in doing work in different regions. I think that's one aspect which is very interesting. And then I think use cases, what you could implement in smart city and prop tech development, that would be in particular interest. So Paul, please share your ideas with us.
And thank you, Emma, for having us on today. And Jeff, you know what? We really have to connect. I can't wait to have a one-on-one talk with you because I think it's what you're doing is fantastic and absolutely in line with where I'm going. In fact, many years ago, I was asked by the Saudi government to come over to look at doing some blue sky thinking on the Hajj and Umrah festivals and how they could use data, mainly RFID, to work out really what's happening, to automate everything to the nth degree. So where you're going is great, and I know it's hard work. So you have my support every minute of the day. Okay, so well, anyway, I'll take it through. So we're not a fintech company, just to be clear. So I know a lot of identities based on fintech. We're actually really focused on sustainability and safety of buildings. So one of the things we do is we have developed multiple RFID solutions where we embed all of this inside your ID card or your access card to buildings. And that allows us through the sensor technology we put in a building, which means you don't touch anything, you don't have an app, it's all about, it's exactly what you said, Jeff. The issue with all of this technology is one thing: the lowest common denominator, the person at the bottom of the chain who's probably not really that engaged and doesn't care and isn't going to do those steps. And that's where you always have to be thinking around the human aspect of things. And as Dr. Sasha said, I in my last business, I'd grown that business in 16 different countries from all over the USA, right through Europe, from east to west Europe, Ukraine, Russia, right across Thailand. So as I often joke, good luck trying to do an 8-hour day when you got lost San Francisco and Bangkok in your portfolio. But what we did get to see very clearly was we got to see the issues around culture and data. And certainly, now my business has grown wider again, so it's a lot more than 16 countries now. It's probably 22, 23 countries we're dealing with. But you do get to see how you present and how you bring technologies into a country has got to be done very subtly and after the understanding of really the culture of a country. I mean, the Germans are wonderful people, but when it comes to data, they are absolutely hard line on what you can and cannot share. Whereas in China, where we work a lot now, it's fairly open. It's very, very controlled by things like WeChat. And quite frankly, the population in China is so much more advanced in terms of its digital engagement than many other countries we see. When you also think about age groups, very importantly, a lot of us here are quite young and tech savvy. But what about those people who really are not of that ilk. You know, the ones who are a little bit too old, where cash is king, and it can be very difficult to try and, in fact, I would say actually impossible in most scenarios to bring them on that whole journey. So a lot of what we're about is really how we detect people going into buildings, and when you get out of a lift lobby on whatever floor, I'm on the 39th floor of my building. When I get out, how do I instantly just detect that you're there? Now, we use that for a number of reasons, and I want to get back to sustainability. I am obsessed about sustainability. As I say to anybody in sustainability, unless you're obsessed, please do something else, because it is not a job for the faint-hearted. It's for people who are willing to put the proverbial balls on the line and really push harder and harder, because we are living in a world that is just so unnatural, and it is only human beings who have messed this world up. And we, with the brains we have and the communications we have now, we have got to pull back on that. So I'll give you an example of how we do things. So we work on the occupancy of each floor of a high-rise building. Now, based on that, what we've done is work at many universities to look at what is it that changes that DNA of your Monday to Friday solution, Monday to Friday occupancy levels. And that can be right down from weather conditions to train strikes to bank holidays to midterm breaks for children, etc. And it all has an impact. And what we end up doing is getting the DNA of each floor, embedding all these extra predictive analysis metrics, which we know need to be in there. And then we can tell the building a day in advance, this is what your plateau tomorrow is going to look like. Now, when you start embedding that with weather conditions, you can start changing the way you do your HVAC. So how late do you turn your HVAC on? How low do you turn your fans? How early can you turn it off and not affect those last few people leaving in the evening? And, you know, I'm going to be very clear. All of the solutions are here today. It's just a case of getting people who are passionate enough and are willing to go and buckle down and implement and move things forward. And our goal here is to literally deliver at least a 30% saving in energy use inside buildings within 1 year of being introduced to any building. But that needs two things. It needs one, us doing our job properly, which we do. It needs a person bringing us in to get off the backside and actually implement the clear, totally unrefuted data we send them that says you can change your building by doing X, Y, and Z. And that's what we're all about. Some of the other points, following up from Jeff, you know, in pets in the UK, already all dogs and cats are already chipped. It's already there. And this is where we have to start. Also, I think one of the big things here is think about globalization. How do we take every country from China, India, Russia, America, Europe, with a different sort of cultures and different rules and regulations to come on an accepted one common denominator of communication. And that's really going to be the difficult part here. The banks are very, very good at doing this. We need to get everybody else to move ahead and crack on as well. So in terms of what we're trying to do, Jeff, you know, and the wider aspect here is we work on multiple technologies built inside one card. Up to 4 or 5 technologies built inside one card. And we're going further. But luckily, as the more we get to know that, I work with some fantastic universities, and I have some of the most brilliant professors working with me. And we're constantly trying to work on the next iteration of communication protocols from 2.4, 5, 6, and 7G, Wi-Fi harvesting of that energy to turn it into a way of detecting somebody by embedding a multiple chip solutions inside an ID card. So I see a bright future. I think it's all about, and the one thing it's all about is collaboration. Jeff, you do what you do. I'm sure all the other speakers don't tell us what they do. We can't all do everything. What we got to do, and that's what's great about Dr. Sasha and Amor, is they bring us together and we multiply and we can accelerate things much quicker by working and building those frameworks together and how we can collaborate and move innovation forward. So I think because we're over time, I'm going to stop now unless there's any questions.
Okay, I think we can keep questions towards the end of the session.
Wonderful.
I feel really the spirit and fire in our conversation already, so it's really great. It's really great. So let's continue. And now we would like to hear from Takumi Aoki-san, who is ambassador of Asia Pacific Digital Identity Consortium. So we would love to learn about the work you do in your consortium, what the ideas behind, what are the strategies, how could we cooperate or integrate it with IDEA. Please, Aoki-san, tell us, and I think we'll have also more and more questions for you later.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, thank you for having me Special thanks to Jeff for actually inviting me to speak in this event. I'm just sharing my screen. Please let me know if there's anything wrong with the screen. I have a couple of slides just so you can understand a little bit better for illustration purposes. But first of all, my name is Takumi. I am from DNP, which is a Japanese printing company. So actually, we have a lot of business sectors. I'm not going to just explain a lot about DNP because I'm going to be talking about iPDI, but just a short introduction. So we have, so we're heading into our 150th anniversary next year. We have a lot of expertise in physical ID, so cards, and also we have the digital. We have a lot of digital solutions that come behind it, and so we have a lot of extensive expertise within the security area. So naturally, we wanted to transcend from physical to digital, and now we're trying to create our own digital identity platform so we can manage, and so users and people can be able to have more control over their own data and privacy. So with that being said, I'm going to talk about iPDI. Jeff mentioned really briefly about what we are. iPDI is short for the Asia Pacific Digital Identity Consortium. We were established just at the end of last year. And we currently have 5 members in the region, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Myanmar, and Singapore. So first of all, what we do and what it matters, Asia Pacific is, as everyone is aware, a huge, diverse place where we have multiple different languages, different cultures, very rich in that aspect. And the area is accounting for nearly 60% of the world's population. However, as we look across the world, I think there are a lot of global interoperable enablers, especially in the EU. We see the eIDAS 2.0 and the rise of the EU digital identity wallets. In the US and North America, we see a lot of the ISO MDL standards, also in Australia as well. But looking at Asia Pacific, we didn't necessarily see a rising kind of movement towards how we can create an interoperable network for these digital identities. So at iPDI, we are trying to be able to promote the use of digital identity and enable people to have more freedom with their own data, and more importantly, to have that across borders. So to be able to have their own control and to be able to be very comfortable in being able to access services in other countries while using something that they are very familiar with. So we're trying to do that, and our focus is going to be on creating a network for a trust framework, as well as looking at the technical standards to implement interoperability. But our main focus is more on how can we solve practical issues in the real world using this technology. So I'm not going to go through too much of the details. So we have a couple of working groups at the moment. First of all, travel verification, looking at how we can use digital identity from your country and to go to another country that we are connected with and to be able to use those credentials. Second is for the work education digitalization, similar to what Jeff mentioned, but how can we resolve the kind of barriers of being able to verify your credentials and being able to apply more swiftly and with more trust. And finally, with banking and finance, we think there's a lot of potential in this area. And I think this will lead sometime to the fintech sectors, so we can have more verification capabilities and have more security and trust within the transactions. Just one simple use case. I'm not going to go too much in detail, but for instance, in Japan, we have a lot of inbound tourism. I don't know if anyone in this room has been into Japan, but we are seeing a lot of increase in people coming from abroad. Just last year, we saw the record high number, which was around, I believe, 36 million people. But the Japanese government is looking at gaining on more, and it will exceed 60 million by 2030. However, there's a very declining population in Japan, and naturally, there is a very severe shortage of labor for the service providers end, which accounts to two huge issues. So the first one is, well, now that we have more people coming in, for instance, for hotels, check-in is becoming much more of a burden. And also being able to verify that this person is the person that is actually booked the place. We see a lot of potential that we can streamline that process using this technology. Another point is, while we have a shortage in labor, we have to have more people working. So we have to have more migrant workers in the workforce. But at the same time, we'll need to have more capability to onboard those workers, and that will give rise to more and more issues of identity fraud and other issues, which is very costly for the service providers, and it will become an increasing issue as was mentioned numerous times today. AI is also becoming a contributing factor to that point. So we're trying to understand how we can utilize this technology and to become more close to each other by connecting together and to create a network where we can be safe and secure in terms of exchanging and transacting using our identities to access services. So in short, that's all from my side. But we have a website. It's up and running. So please scan the QR code for more details. And we are, as Jeff mentioned earlier, we are trying to have more people, more parties onboarded with us, especially in the Asia Pacific, but not. So we're trying to create an Asia Pacific consortium and then connect towards other ecosystems as well. But I think it's matter of, as Jeff also mentioned, one company cannot do anything to solve any practical issues in this aspect. We need to have more people, more companies that share our vision and can work towards solving these practical issues and enabling and empowering the people with their own data. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Aoki-san. We really align. iDEA is really aligned with your vision. So I see good matching for us to make a partnership and deliver results together in much more accelerated way across the globe. Thank you so much. So now Arturo Rodriguez, who is the co-founder of Australian DeFi Association. We're really eager to hear from you, Arturo, what you're doing in your association regarding also digital ID space, and what challenges you see maybe in blockchain-based ID adoption. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for having me. I'll give you a very brief intro into who I am and what we do. So I wear two hats. One of them is as the co-founder and CEO of a company called Not Centralized, where we are a capital markets advisory business within the tokenization space. And then we have a lot of community engagement, and one of those communities is the Australian DeFi Association, which is the largest of its kind here in the region. And we've run in-person meetups across 5 cities in Australia on a monthly basis. So it's been quite a lot of work, and that's also put us in touch with both grassroots community and also with governments, including at the government level, including Treasury, the regulators, the central bank, and so forth. So in that regard, we've actually quite done a lot of things in the digital identity space, although I wouldn't say that we go out and say that we focus on digital identity. The focus is actually more secondary, because digital identity is a necessity for any form of let's call it pure digital or natively digital workflow. So the two things that we've done is in the finance space, and then also on the educational side, because we work together with the government of Qatar to have digital representations of or digitizing rather the attestation process of university degrees within their workflow, which is a governmental workflow that includes the Ministry of Labor, the universities, and the private sector, in this case being the companies and the graduates. Now, that in principle is different to the other form of digital identity that we have, which is more in relation to KYC and AML for financial services. So what I would say is that the topic of tokenization in general, and I would include digital identity within tokenization as a subset, is effectively having a legal framework that applies to the digital representation, in some cases, the digital token, right? Because otherwise, if you simply have a digital representation without any legal rights or any legal acknowledgement, then it's basically just a digital representation, and it doesn't matter that much. It's really just a ledger, like an Excel sheet, right? It's just run on a distributed chain. So I think that in most of the scenarios that we deal with, and the big hurdle, let's say, is that most of the decentralized thinking actually starts from the technology side and then tries to move into the real world, as opposed to the other way around, which is that the real world already has quite functioning and mature frameworks that need to be honored, and they need to be represented on chain so that the blockchain technology is actually fit for purpose. And sure, we can get into the detail of why that has happened. I mean, at the end of the day, the decentralized community went for the most difficult thing possible, which is actually to create a decentralized currency, and it kind of worked out. And here I'm talking about Bitcoin, but we then think that we can apply the same line of thought across everything else that we're doing, when it's actually very much the opposite. So in terms of digital identity and anything that is finance related, almost every single country has their own rules and regulations and expectations on how to deal with the rights and obligations that this digital token is supposed to represent. Meaning that when we go down the route of digital identity, effectively what we're doing is that we are, first off, we need to understand what the specific country rules say is necessary to be able to have a compliant process, right? So it's capture of identity, it's verification of the identity, like the standard processes offer with some sub, or you choose a KYC provider out there, or rather choose a provider that gives you verification of documentation and liveliness, and you have your step one. Now, in all of those scenarios, we really have to define what decentralized means. So you can have the highly, let's call it, theoretical exercise of saying, well, we can have a decentralized attestation process for what identity is, where that's never going to be compliant, because at the end of the day, identity in the form that the rule of law requires is a highly centralized process, meaning that it is a government that has followed a certain set of processes that is effectively issued. Let's start off with a passport, and that is what true identity means within that context. Therefore, there's an argument that that will never be decentralized. Now, the decentralization element within this identity and the way that we treat it is that you do have, as Jeff showed in the diagrams, you have the entity that generates the identity. That's a trusted centralized entity. But then you have a cryptographic package, let's say, that allows you to, in an asynchronous way, engage with multiple different parties, such that the government entity, let's say, doesn't need to be contacted every single time in order for an attestation to occur, right? So that's standard zero knowledge proof technology, which gives you that asynchronous, succinct proof mechanism to know that we can share only certain pieces of data. That proof is valid and it is in line with the information that was generated by the government. But if I then take a step back and talk about the wider scope, let's call it in an international scope, what we see is that the first steps within the work that we do is always a regional one. It's a very pointed one, right? It's not about finding a digital identity that solves all of the different problems across multiple jurisdictions, because it's not the identity per se that is the problem. It is the rights and the obligations that this package gives you. And those are effectively very specific to the jurisdiction that you're working on. Now, there are many commonalities because there is a regulatory aim for a harmonic, let's say, set of rules in most Western countries. But at the end of the day, there are nuances and kinks that are very specific to each jurisdiction, and therefore, when we go down and deal with the digital identity part, it's almost like we have to go down to the rule book of say, well, what is the purpose of the digital identity? And how can we fit the rules that define what is compliant with that specific purpose, which effectively means that we end up with a slightly different set of rules for every single country that we're dealing. And we just need to ensure that that there is an acknowledgement and understanding of that, not a hope that we will change the system to a place where everybody holds hands and that same identity works across the board, because that'll work for a passport, but it won't work for your ability to actually use the passport in deeper ways, because you always need to have these amendments or these addendums, let's say, which is, for example, if you have a requirement for an investor within the DeFi space to be an accredited investor, the definition of accreditation and the way in which you prove it, this accreditation will be dependent on the jurisdiction in which you're in. So again, the best that I think that we are able to achieve is piecewise specification of the requirements that give you compliance in relation to the rights and obligations that you want this identity to get. And hopefully you can design the technology in such a modular form that you can easily add the annexed information that is required to this piece of information, but doing so for every specific jurisdiction. Happy for any questions, but we can do the questions afterwards.
Thank you very much, Arturo, for a really deep dive on the topic. I think we can keep our questions towards the end of the webinar. And now I'd like to give the floor to Dr. Deepika Saini, who is one of the founders of Cyberhumane and other different groups in women advocacy, in legal of work, human rights, and cybersecurity. So, Dr. Deepika, please tell us about what's your personal, your organization, and vision in India, maybe in South Asia, on digital ID topic.
Thank you, Dr. Sasha, for giving me this floor. Hello, everyone. Very good evening. Hi, Dr. Amor. So I have categorized two things in my whole, the discussion. Firstly, I would like to tell you about the cyberhumane. What does it mean and why we have started? What is the reason behind it? So cyberhumane is an initiative dedicated to promoting digital dignity and fostering a respectful online environment. The surprise that despite of the growth of digital access, many girls and women worldwide still feel unsafe while creating an accounts, sharing their talents, or posting pictures online. This fear stems out from the very real concern that their identity will be misused and exploited further. So Cyberhumane believes that digital hygiene, practicing safe, respectful, and ethical concern and behavior must be the global standard. It should not be the country specific. It has to be a global standard that we have to work on. So cyberhuman, what exactly is doing is that they are advocating for the establishment of the strict laws, strong enforcement mechanism, and public awareness campaign that we are doing worldwide to create a safer space online. And cyberhuman envision a future where the internet becomes a tool for empowerment rather than the exploitation. Yes, I'm a lawyer also by profession, so I would like to give some legal perspective that how digital identity is not just a technological advancement, but a critical pillar for achieving inclusive prosperity for the global majority. At its core, digital identity is a fundamental enabler of rights. It is ability of the individuals to prove who they are and to the governments, institution and to the businesses remotely, securely and affordably. From a lawyer's standpoint, it touches on three fundamental pillars. One is the legal recognition that we are going to get when we have a digital identity in place. Number two is that we are going to have an access for the rights and the services. And third is the empowerment. So first is the legal recognition that in many of the in many part of the world, millions still live without a verified identity. Without legal identity, people cannot claim the basic rights even access to the healthcare, education, voting rights, property, or justice. So, in legal terms, identity is first gateway to enforceability of the rights, and without an identity, there is no standing. Second is the access to rights and services. A well-designed digital identity frameworks allow marginalized communities, rural population, women and migrants to participate in economic and social systems. And it reduces transaction cost and combats systematic inclusion. From a legal compliance lens, robust digital IDs ensure better KYC practices, secure financial inclusion, and streamline government welfare distributions and reduce fraud and leakages. In short, digital identity bridges the gap between law on paper and law in practice. And the third is the empowerment, a rights based digital identity founded on principles of privacy, consent, and security. It empowers individuals to control their information. International legal frameworks like GDPR emphasize on data sovereignty, the rights of individual over their personal data. A lawyer sees digital identity as a tool just for the identification, but autonomy and dignity as well. So the true prosperity is when individuals engage safely in digital economy as well, access of the credit, start business and move freely. Today we all are talking about the businesses that we have established in our respective countries just because that we have digital identities in place, and on the basis of that we can conduct business out of our the forte, the domain expertise that we all are having right now. However, the journey must be cautious. Digital identity must not be tool for surveillance or discrimination. Lawyers and policymakers must ensure that digital identity frameworks are inclusive by design, equitable in access, and accountable in governance. So, in conclusion, digital identity is much more than a number or a card. It bridges a world where no one is left behind because of they were born, what they own, and how they look. So if we design it thoughtfully, respecting human rights and promoting accessibility, digital identity can become the key to inclusive prosperity in the global majority. Thank you very much. And we, with the help of cyberhumane, we are advocating the rights of the people. They should know what they need to do. So this is what that we are doing in India. Thank you very much, everyone.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Deepika. And I think India has really great practices in digital identity, Aadhaar, DigiLockers, a lot of great technologies coming from India, which we can really apply and learn experience in a global majority country. And speaking of global majority, here we have Lola Campbell, who is a financial innovation expert, and he has an experience from Southeast Asia, Africa, and now I believe South Asia in Bangladesh. So Lowell, please tell us what you're up to now and how do you look at digital identity issue?
Sure, thanks. I mean, it's good to see everybody. I mean, I feel like the least bright person in the room listening to all these great things that you guys are doing. And all I can say from my own perspective is, I'm literally just trying to solve the problems of the world one person at a time. And I think that's the most important thing. One person, an aggregation of one people becomes the majority that we're trying to look after. And I think in terms of, I'm trying to change financial services. I'm trying to do a whole bunch of things, but I think it's quite opportune that we're talking about identity at the moment, because I think the greatest risk to the growth of inclusion, to the growth of the majority, is forced or imposed anonymity. So often we have these anonymous majorities of humans across the globe who, no matter what they do, they cannot get themselves out into the open, which affects access, it affects affordability, it affects credit worthiness, and everything in between. So I think for me, digital identity is the thing. Self-sovereign ID should be a right for everybody, because self-sovereign ID leads to self-sovereign data, which are entirely interconnected. If I know what's happening, if I know who you are and you know who you are, if you know where your data is being consumed, what it's being consumed for, putting the two together is the thing, or the couple of things that are actually going to bring all the anonymity out into the open. And I think that's really, really, really important, because if we look at it, if you look at the affordability aspect, in terms of the kinds of things that I'm trying to do, and I've worked from Iraq to Yemen to India to China to you name it. I mean, I've been in 70-odd countries, and some are just a little bit more advanced than the others, but the problems are still absolutely the same. And the reality is that unless you can do straight through processing, you are going to make it more expensive for the majority, no matter what you do. Because the reality is, and let's call a spade a spade. The more chaos there is, the more people can charge, and the more the majority is finding themselves at a disadvantage. And I often say the most expensive thing in the world to be is poor, because everything costs you, whether it's life, whether it's food, whether it's it doesn't matter. So if we can bring this identity across, is what we're trying to do. So I'm looking and I'm saying to myself, there are great technologies in the world, great technologies, but they have to be applicable to the majority of people that we're actually trying to serve. And what is it that we're actually trying to do? I'm just trying to say that some gentleman, and I'll use Dr. Sani as an example here, some guy in Chennai as an example. Nobody knows he exists on the planet, okay? How do we bring him into the open, or her into the open, so that his identity now means something? What is it that is identity? It is around technology. It is around bringing in the blockchains of the world, etc., to unlock all these things. And why do I say that? Is because if I understand your identity, your self-sovereign data, I can deliver incredibly strong smart contracts. Because what is the basic tenet of a contract? Who am I actually contracting with? What do they have to do? And what are the consequences? Self-sovereign ID, self-sovereign data enables me to do all of those things. So if I then use that, and it's the things that we're trying to do in the opportunity that I'm currently building at the moment, if I'm using those as the basic tenets, I'm saying that if I can identify you and I can have your data, I can create a true straight-through process. I can reduce the cost to serve exponentially, and that now opens the world. So ticket sizes, low value, high volume ticket sizes that were unavailable to financial services and or other players globally before, now suddenly become available. So what we're trying to do in terms of what we're doing, and South Asia is particularly important, and I won't speak for too much longer. And in fact, the Philippines, where I lived before, is also particularly important. If you look in these geographies around Asia, and Africa as well. The overseas foreign worker component of these geographies are unbelievably huge. Bangladesh, $30+ billion a year. Philippines, $30+ billion a year. You have governments in certain of these markets, the Philippines being one, saying that the OFWs are the bread basket of our country. But guess what? Who gets hammered the most? It is the overseas foreign workers, because they're anonymous. That we cannot identify who they are, where they are, what they're doing. We can't take what they're, where they are, what they're doing, etc. Assign that to some data, use that data credibly because we understand source and destination, and then lower the cost to serve, increase the number of products and services, and all of the things that you've been speaking about on this call, which are absolutely fantastic. Jeff, all the things that you're speaking about, whether it be health, whether it be education, whether it be financial services, you name it. The global majority only accesses those things if we understand who they are and provide it to them, provide it to them cheaply. Because any other way, it's lip service. We talk about it, and I go through these things all the time. And sorry, I'm very passionate about this. Is that we actually have to give practical solutions, and suddenly 4 billion people become accessible for all the incredible opportunities that you guys are discussing, especially Arturo on the blockchain side. Imagine an interconnected world where 3.5 billion people are connected real time, able to transfer goods, services, and everything else real time because we've connected them all via self-sovereign ID and self-sovereign data. I'll stop there because I've gone for hours, and my voice starts to get raised as I start to get more passionate about it. So thank you to everybody, to Sasha, Amor, everybody. So good to see you all, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Lowo. Really feeling goosebumps after your presentation. And speaking of data, Mark Bernard, we would like to soon welcome you as a new chair for AI and Data Committee in iDEA. And we know that recently you launched your new organization called like CDO Guild, or Chief Data Officers Guild. So please tell us about your new initiatives, and with your rich experience, we know you are author, book writer, AI and data expert. So we're really pleased to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Sasha. Thank you, Amor, for having me. And thank you also, Lowell, and everyone for your very human perspective. I feel like I've actually found a home for my very strange mix of diverse talents, perhaps. 3 years out of high school, I was living next to a garbage dump. It was actually the biggest garbage dump in Southeast Asia. It was Smoky Mountain in Manila, in the Philippines. It was 50 meters high. And the reason I was there is because I was working with a volunteer organization serving the poor. 20,000 families, more than 100,000 people lived on that garbage dump. And so I have a deep connection with the Philippines. It goes back a long way, and a deep connection with the financially underserved, actually, which was the whole point there. So it's very, very exciting to, after almost, more than, almost, let's say, 40 years, come full circle with something like this. And hearing a brother in Lowell with the same sort of passion for the same financially underserved components. So my perspective, I guess, is a little bit different. I'm an old school data guy. I've had a passion for data. I've worked with data for a long time. But in all of these things, it's data that actually brings it all together. Even, a digital ID is data. A transaction is data. All of it's data. And I did write a book called Data Governance for Everyone. Amor has inspired me to put out a new version, which is going to be Data Governance for the Global Majority, because there are some things that are different. Like in the West, we can throw $200,000 at a piece of software and solve a data quality issue. You try and sell the same software in Manila or Bangladesh, it'll be, well, I can employ 5 people full time and do it cheaper, and I don't have to buy your expensive American software. So there's a lot of opportunities as well as challenges in that space. So I'm kind of looking at and exploring those kind of things. And then the other challenges we have are, some of you has mentioned, around identity theft. How do we mitigate against that? It's a lot more difficult when the data is very, very simple. However, the right kind of governance can actually mitigate against that, and the training is necessary for us to do that. A lot of organizations in the emerging world or the global majority are not going to pay $3,000 a day for a McKinsey consultant to come in
and tell them how to do their governance. So let's tell them how to do it for free, you know? And it could be something as simple as just managing the data lifecycle, like the recent Optus breach, you know? So Optus was a telco in Australia. They were taking copies of people's driver's license and passport in order to do a credit check. Now, GDPR and other guidelines say that as soon as you have used the data for the business purpose for which it was provided, you get rid of the data because you fulfilled the purpose that it was there for. Well, somebody at Optus didn't have their governance right, and they kept this data, and there was a breach, and 600,000 Australians' identities got stolen in that breach because they hadn't looked after the basics. And so I guess if I can contribute something, I've got the DeFi guys over here and the crypto guys over here and the all this really cool stuff, and I'm down here with the basics saying let's put the foundations there as well, and we can support that going forward. So that's kind of the perspective that I'm coming from, and hopefully the contribution that I can make. So I haven't developed a polished pitch just yet, but I can see the points of intersection with the things that Amor is bringing together here. So I'm very honored to be a part of it, and that's how I hope I can serve you guys.
Thank you so much. So we look forward for collaborating with our experts and network of Global Majority towards your book and then other projects of our leaders. So now I'd like to give a floor to Davison Arthur, who is calling us from Brazil, from Rio. He's a tech expert in payments, also tokenization, Web3 space. So he's doing a lot of great work in supporting indigenous communities in Latin America. And Davison will also co-chair for BRICS committee in iDEA. So I believe Davison will be delivering his speech in Portuguese, but we'll be having a translation in a chat in English. So Global Majority is not limited by only one language. We can use any language, and technology and bridge us all together. Okay, Davison, please go ahead. Probably it was a disconnection from Davison's side. So maybe we'll just keep time for Davison. And now we have Ruben Diaz, who is also from South America, from Ecuador and Chile. So Ruben, we know you have also some exciting announcements, right, regarding your new book. And I think a lot of intersections coming with the work of Lowell and Mark and Jeff, Aoki-san, Dr. Deepika. So please give us your perspective regarding digital ID adoption in the Global Majority. We cannot hear you, Ruben. Please adjust your sound because it seems like you are muted, but there is no actual sound. No. Maybe if you can rejoin from the other device, we cannot hear you. All right, meanwhile, maybe we can take a floor for some questions. I see Davison is back. Ruben, I hope you can adjust your sound meanwhile as well when Davison is presenting.
Olá a todos. Caiu aqui, desculpa. Eu não sei se está acontecendo a tradução. Deixa eu enviar o texto aqui. Agora voltou.
Okay, Davison, you're back. You can speak now. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Olá a todos. Obrigado, Alex, e a todos pelo espaço. Peço desculpa por não conseguir ativar a tradução simultânea. Hoje, muito se fala sobre Real World Assets e blockchain, mas pouco sobre um ponto essencial, identificação das pessoas. Quando falamos de identidades digitais, é importante que elas estejam integradas diretamente às wallets para conectarem à blockchain. Precisamos garantir segurança nas transações e criar uma identidade simples que permita o acesso fácil para todas as pessoas, de todas as idades. No Brasil, o Pix é um exemplo de sucesso em segurança e baixa fraude, graças à forte ligação entre identidade e o sistema. Na descentralização das identidades digitais, o mais importante é colateralizar a identidade. Um exemplo foi até abordado aqui, é o LinkedIn, é a integração com outras redes, que permite validar a identidade via passaporte, mesmo que todos não tenham acesso a essa API. Então, é a colateralização da identidade. Por isso, a evolução das identidades digitais deve ser orgânica e gradual. O primeiro passo é a sua autodeclaração, como já acontece quando criamos contas em e-commerce. Google, Amazon, LinkedIn, eles são importantes exemplos de como uma identidade digital pode ser aceita e pode ser, de forma gradual, vir se transformando e colateralizando e ratificando as transações. Depois dessa fase, a identidade deve ser validada de forma progressiva, conectando-se às redes que já tenham camadas de verificação. Aqui no Brasil, Pix, Índia, UPI e outros. LinkedIn, aqui o WhatsApp também. Então, você conecta nessas redes para colateralizar e ratificar e confirmar aquela identidade. Acredito que a melhor solução para a segurança das identidades digital é a integração com wallets e o uso de Hardware Security Modules. Os HSMs oferecem simplicidade de um uso e um alto nível de segurança. Eles garantem a soberania do usuário sobre seus dados, a adaptação às necessidades locais, resiliência a crises, portabilidade entre data centers e o preparo para a nova era da criptografia pós-quântica. Bem, é isso, pessoal. Obrigado a todos. Obrigado, Alex.
Obrigada, Davison. Thank you very much. Really beautiful to listen Portuguese speech, and we can understand the translation. So I think no issue with that. Thank you so much. And Ruben, I hope you could connect. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect. Yes, perfect.
Perfect.
Please go ahead.
Yes, I had to change my computer.
With your
That's why
review
I get-
about Latin America digital ID market and inclusion, how you see it. Yeah.
Okay, let me show you. I have a small presentation. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, it's good.
Okay, let me. Now you're seeing the presentation.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, this is about being a citizen in this digital era. You know, digital identity is the enable technology of being a citizen in this world, in this new world, and that's why it's so important, and that's why inclusion is that important, because this could be a critical point in terms of who's going to be the poor in the next century and who's going to be the rich in the next century. Okay. I was asked to talk about Latin America. First of all, I want to. Are you seeing this kind of map?
Yes. South
Yes,
America.
because yes, Latin America from Mexico to Argentina. Okay. First, let me tell you one piece of background, and one that is, we are a very heterogeneous continent. we're not as heterogeneous as Asia, but we are almost as heterogeneous as Asia, and we're not that big, and we don't have that amount of population. But when you talk about Latin America, you're not talking about one single continent in terms that what you could find in maybe in Europe, or when they talk to you about Canada and United States. We're talking about a continent that has a lot of difference. If you want, this area here is the Mercosur. They are much more related to Europe. They had a lot of recent European immigration. That's Argentina, Chile, and Brazil, and they are much more connected with Europe in cultural and economic terms. We have the Andean region, which is made of Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia, which has a lot of. We have a lot of indigenous countries, indigenous people here. We have Central America, small countries, a small population, a lot of indigenous people, and also we have Mexico, which is another continent in cultural terms, and obviously we have the Caribbean, and I have included Venezuela in the Caribbean because they are much more united to that logic and to that culture than more to the Andean countries. So everything is different in every single of one of those areas. We have countries having in 22,000 GDP per capita like Uruguay, and we have countries like Haiti, which is one of the poorest countries in the world. So this is an heterogeneous continent. But we have shared history. And besides being an economist, besides being a software engineer, I love history. And I love to understand the history of things, to understand where this is going. And we should remember that in this case in Latin America, maybe in Philippines is the same. You remember we have the Spanish colony, we got independence, and even before, even after the independence, uh, much of our countries relied on church doing the registry of civilians. And we have this revolution to the secular state, I mean, the separation between church and state around the mid the 20th century and the beginnings of the 20th century in some cases. And then the state started to work and to register, when people got married or when people was born. And then just after some revolutions and just after several different things, the state started to provide nationwide ID systems. I should write in a specific agency, let me call it the Registro Civil, which was the name of these institutions across Latin America. And the reasons for that were military reasons in the case of Argentina or electoral reasons. And why I'm saying all this is because these political reasons and no other reasons, or no reasons based on rights, were the reasons for providing identity to people. And everywhere else, every single country we see in Latin America were national states the promoters of ID systems, but for political reasons and not for citizen reasons. And this is important to see because this is a tendency, a trend that we're going to see in our actual ID systems and digital systems. And the problem here is that digital transformation is not a priority for most Latin American governments. And as for that, the government force towards citizenship is not a priority for them, except by the case of Chile, Colombia, Uruguay, and maybe Brazil. Yeah, most of the digital identity force and demands of the digital identity are coming from the private sector or coming from the citizens. And in the private sector, is coming from the finance sector, to be much more precise. But in all the Latin American countries, national state still owns the monopoly of the identification. And this is good, but they are not thinking on how to share responsibilities in this specific case with the private sector to make a much more greater impact. And we will see what has been done here in Ecuador and in some other places in Latin America that could solve this. We have several initiatives, different initiatives in terms of digital ID. Brazil with I think it's Cartera de Identidad Nacional. Davison should correct me. Colombia, we have the digital ID, Cédula Digital. And everything is connected to payments in all these cases. Argentina, in this case, we have the Mi Argentina, Sistema de Identidad Digital. We have in Chile, Clave Única, which is interesting. Is the Clave Única much more than a unique digital identity? It's much more like a unique password and user for all the government services. And they claim to have more than 40 million people using it. And of course, they have 40 million people using it because for anything you want to do in Chile for, getting your passport or getting, I don't know, whatever you want, you need this account and they send you an information. So it's kind of, I mean, email where you can, it's the only place or the only contact point with government and citizens. So it's not a digital identity in real terms. Mexico, they have the corporate evolution. Peru, they have the electrical national ID, where they have a lot of problems. Uruguay, they have the established digital ID system, but they haven't advanced too much. And in general terms, Mercosur, it means Uruguay, Argentina, Chile, and Brazil, they have this digital citizen initiative, which is a cross-border initiative. But all these problems I have been telling you share the same problem. They are too slow for the needs. I mean, right now, who's saying that I am Ruben Diaz and who's saying that anyone is anyone is Gmail or Facebook or LinkedIn. And actually, those are the providers of identity, which is very, very dangerous. Okay?
तो भैया कहाँ पर भिजवाएंगे फिर आप वो भी हेलो
मैम आवाज ब्रेक हो रही है
Excuse me, Dr. Deepika, please mute yourself.
Okay? Is it brilliant?
Okay.
So the other question that you sent me was, how can public-private cooperation foster innovation and trust? And this is important. We have here in Latin America a very interesting, successful issue. We have a very successful case, which is digital signatures that emerged as a successful digital identity mechanism in Latin America because they were to deliver it. The ecosystem development was delivered in between public and private institutions. In general terms, Latin American government established comprehensive legal frameworks, different legal works, at least 20 years ago. And these institutions, Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, and Uruguay, started to create national identity, to allow the National Identity Registry or Agency to have 2, 3, 4, or 5 trusted certification authorities for digital sign. And we had these e-sign providers that offered their service to citizens and firms through different platforms. So this ecosystem started to work very well at least the last 4 or 5 years, especially when governments started to request all these documents signed through these networks or through these institutions or they are accepting in some cases in Ecuador, for example, if you're going to offer something to the state, to the procurement system, they are going to ask you, you have your digital sign. So in Latin America, we have a lot of problems with digital identity by itself, but we have a lot of advances in digital sign and digital sign. Okay, but the foundation of all this is interoperability, and here is where I think we need to talk about, how create digital identity interoperability. I'm going to send you this. I'm going to talk about this because you know much more about this than me. But I think we have here with Amor, with Alexander, we have this space, name it iDEA, where we could start talking about this. And this is important because I see no other institution in the world talking about how important is that we, the people of the global majority, start working on this global framework of digital identity or interoperability. This, I was requested to have only 5 minutes, so this is where I end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ruben, for really comprehensive overview of Latin America and the strategies in different countries. I think it's really very insightful and really, indeed, iDEA, the platform where we could connect all together, exchange our not only ideas but practical applications, projects, right, and solidify our efforts in terms of achieving real life results. So that's my little contribution. And I think now we have a open floor for questions and answers in case you have. Otherwise, Amor, I'll ask you to say some words to close.
Thank you so much to everyone. Davison, obrigado. And special shout out to our brother Ruben, whose day is just beginning as our brother Arturo is about to end. I think instead of closing is I'd like to do a quick recap before I turn it over to our chair, Mr. Jeff Hu. This is what I love about these webinars that we pre-record for our community. Um, we are now 92 countries strong, beginning with 32 when we first incorporated in Hong Kong. And almost every week, we run these webinars, not just with an end goal of teaching, but also fraternizing, but very concrete action steps take shape. Tonight, you met many of our leaders in IDEA, from our chair for AI and data in the global majority, Mr. Mark Bernard, to our chair for incoming chair for PropTech, Mr. Paul Sheedy, and very soon welcoming our chair. Is Deepika here? I can't imagine anyone else leading cybersecurity and digital dignity. Um, a few things that come to mind, and this I don't hope to throw so much to Jeff's way, but I think there's really a lot of opportunity for us to come up with guidelines and across the countries in IDEA, not just recruit members for APDI, but also to help work on guidelines that we, baby step guidelines that we can take on together. I feel that from Ruben to Deepika to Takumi-san to Jeff, this is one of the most important outputs that we should be able to generate together. We are also working on supporting the book projects of two of our leaders. Mr. Ruben and also Mr. Mark Bernard are working on two books that IDEA has in principle agreed to support. And Ruben and Mark, I hope we can work very closely with the leaders here, especially for possible contributions. Also, at the same time, although it's not directly related to fintech, Jeff, I'd like to single out specifically the health tech execution, your project with WHO. We'll contact you separately because at the end of the month, we're supporting one of our most important partners. The home of IDEA is Hong Kong SAR, and they're running a medtech program very, very soon. And I think we should tell them about the work that you do with the WHO. 2 weeks ago, we were with. 2 weeks ago, we were in Hong Kong upon the behest of the Hong Kong TEO and Hong Kong TDC, and we're going to be signing a partnership agreement with a wallet doing digital twins for health. Aside from fintech, which we all passionately love and care about, uh, nothing could be more OG than Lowell Campbell over there. I think the very same technologies that we have for fintech, from digital identity to data sovereignty can all be applied to other to other industries like smart cities and also health tech especially, and of course edutech. So it's not so much a closing, but rather a lot of work needs to get done. We will be transforming this webinar group into a committee that will be chaired by no less than Jeff. Thank you. But we will also be spinning off additional webinars and also committees under Deepika and under Mark and under Paul. And we look forward to your support. Last but not the least, in 2 weeks, 3 IDEA leaders will be in Central Africa. And I wanted to do a special shout out because, you know, they refer to themselves as the global south of Africa. In Africa, there's their global north, right? Your Nigeria and your Kenya and your Rwanda and Ethiopia. And we're very, very grateful to Monsieur Luc, who we will be signing a partnership agreement with IDEA with 12 of the Francophone speaking African countries. And we can't wait. We can't wait to give them a platform and to be their biggest supporter in the global majority. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Have a good night. Obrigado. Share. I can't wait to see you all. Let's all work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Amor.
Jeff, I'm sorry, I turn it over to you.
Yeah, I think we should give
of the work.
the final word to Jeff. Jeff, share again.
I think the
welcome. It's your
Yeah.
party today, so
Thanks.
please share your feelings. How did you find it?
Yeah, 30 seconds and everyone can go to sleep. And thank you, Amor, for the great invitation and the nice closing. I think today we learned a lot about the scenarios and progress from each country. And also for iDEA, we really welcome the friends and partner who are from India, from Bangladesh, and also from Philippines. So please join, and then we'll invite you. We extend the invitation to you, and also we are looking forward to working with partners in UK, in Australia, and also Singapore. So we can build more like cross-country collaboration on that, and also learn a few on the legislation principle. So not only technology itself, like how to build convenience, but also for different country, they might want to use technology to build too much overpower and control, how to prevent it. There will be another topic to talk about, and how to make sure all the technology has a, we call anchor of trust. Like where does the trust came from? Is it has an origin in the source? So a lot of things we can work on, and today is just the beginning. And thank you all both for being here. We can stay in touch in WhatsApp, and yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. This note, I wish everybody good day or good night. So see you in coming IDEA activities, and keep in touch. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Cheers,
Thank you
everyone.
so much. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.